post a while ago about why I fucking hate books. Because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Some there be that shadows kiss, such hath but a shadow's bliss. Hello,
Hi.
welcome to the party. That was a quote from Merchant of Venice that is right in the front of Jack of Shadows.
Sorry.
We're going to take a quick break. Sure you can warm
Hi,
up.
we're back.
Find you a blanket.
Yeah.
So Spoilers Book Club is already spoiled. I'm trying not to have those issues anymore
Not
today.
completely.
Very excited reading Jack of Shadows with everybody. This is one of my favorite standalone books of Roger Zelazny. Just judging by how many times I've read and reread it, I just had to tape my book back together because it fell apart into two pieces.
That's a lot of
To get
damage.
through. But this one, the copyright for the story is 1971, and then this run started in 72. Is not necessarily actually printed in that. It's like a printing from 72, but it might not have actually done then. But we've had this signed the first half, So we have chapters 1 through 6 to go through today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this book. It's really well written. I like the descriptions of all the land and these kind of things. Where Jack is. But we can start out.
Yeah, so there's that kind of cryptic quote from Merchant of Venice. And I'm not going to go into it too much now. I think we're going to break it down more at the end of the book. So it makes sense, but we have to examine the story of Jack of Shadows. We have to look at least that part of Merchant of Venice, and then we also need to go into the Bible. Have clarify references about metallurgy potentially. So it'll be a whole thing to kind of break that down.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1, we open right up. Jack is at an event called the Hell Games in Twilight.
Yeah.
As we go through the story, kind of figuring out what that means. Like, Twilight is a place, not a time of day. And what's he there for?
He wants to steal the Hell Flame.
Because that's what he does.
Because he's a thief.
He's a thief.
And it kind of starts out with these characters that are like, oh, the Jack of Shadows, and he can hide so well, and nobody can catch him. It's impossible.
Yeah, we're making references so he has power if there's shadow around. Have Smage and Quasar. A couple other sort of non-human characters that they're on the dark side of the planet, and they narc on Jack. They go to the master of the games and say, hey, this guy Jack is here.
He's gonna steal it. We know
Yeah, he's gonna steal
You have
the Hell Flame, which is the prize at the end of the Hell Games that are going on. So they bring Jack in.
With a
guards
bunch
with a
of
bunch of torches and make it really bright around him. They bring him in.
Can't go into the shadow.
Yeah, try not to give him any shadow because apparently he has more power. Has something to do with when there's shadows. And he ends up chatting with the Grandmaster of the games. Sophie. Don't need to be upset. It's okay. And Jack has kind of a verbal fencing period with
games.
yeah, with the guy that's in charge of the games, who I think is like a Daysider or a guy from Twilight. We're just like a human person. And it's mentioned even that Jack is part of criminal folklore. I think it was the phrase that was used in there. It's like Jack's like, no, trust me. I'll tell you that I won't steal it. I swear. Like, how do I believe you? You're like this creature of criminal folklore.
He's like, I'll go back and tell the person I was going to steal for that I'm not stealing. I failed.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, right. Whatever.
But
Off with your head.
But it'd be a figure from criminal folklore to make me think of Kaiser Sose from The Usual Suspects. You know this movie?
I've heard of Usual Suspects.
I have to put it on your list. A list of movies that we have to watch together. It's a classic, really good crime movie. Kaiser Sose would also have been a figure of criminal folklore.
Yeah, I lived in a cave for 10 years. I don't know.
That's okay. But we get lots of kind of world and character building in just the span of a few pages, and it doesn't feel forced. I really like the way that it's written there and kind of giving you enough, but not overloading you with downloading of like. It's not like a Wikipedia article about the
so
universe.
Mysterious. You just want to read more. And then as they're like, okay, we're gonna off with your head, there's like bats flying by, and he talks about the Lord of Bats, and they're like mocking him, and he's just like
Yeah, so Jack figures out that it's
Again.
the Lord of Bats. That he's one of these guys that turned him in is working for. And this whole thing was a setup. So like, they knew that he was coming. He was set up to go steal the thing, but there were people waiting there to tell on him and get him caught right from before he ever showed up. So it was set up all along.
Chapter 2.
So chapter
Oh my
1
gosh.
finished. Jacka's head cut off.
But
Yeah.
they're like, you Darksiders have more life, so you're gonna come back.
Yeah, it's kind of the justification of the games master. It's like, well, you're Darksider, you have multiple lives, so this is really just an inconvenience, and I have to do this because I'm gonna have other issues if I don't. But it's still gonna piss him off. So. Oh no. She's gonna be sad. She's crunching her food pretty hard. The place where all the Darksiders that managed to get resurrected show up when they are sort of reincarnated, resurrected, the Dung Pits of Glive.
Dung Pits.
Has a good ring to it, but also disgusting.
Yeah, he's coming back, and he's on the hill of awful.
Yeah. I think there are multiple things in the story where you can, like, if you know what Chekhov's gun is, you're gonna pay attention. But I won't say anymore. I don't want to. Sophie, she's a pretty girl. She's a good girl. Good girl. Did you do the assigned reading? No.
He's like, he comes back to life with no clothes. All his clothes have disintegrated, so he knows it's been a while.
He's naked,
He's
trekking
naked.
through like rivers and piles and ponds of shit.
Yeah.
So even if that was the only thing he had to deal with, you maybe understand why he's upset that Jay says, "Cute doggy." Instant ratings first. But yeah, just a naked hike through miles and miles of, I don't know, sewage that I don't think it's ever explained why all of that is there. It
The
just
lack
is.
of plumbing.
The lack of plumbing.
Maybe, I don't know. It seems like that's a place where everybody comes alive. Back alive, too.
Yeah, all the Darksiders in the same
welcome
place.
to-
Welcome back.
to
Well,
life.
there actually is that sign
Pilot.
that he comes across. So the
Oh,
dung pits
yeah.
of Clive are in the kingdom of Drekheim. And there's a big rock carved into it. Reads "Welcome, slave."
Yeah.
But Jack recognizes this as a good sign. He's like, oh, it's like the more informed we understand. These are put in places that are least like guarded, patrolled, so that it's supposed to get you to go to another direction that probably does have like soldiers in it.
Oh, yeah. So he like is going through all this, and then somehow he like wakes up, and he's like, there's like this body next to him, hair on his shoulder, and he's like, and you think, oh, this is like the sexy part, but then you're like, oh, wait a minute, you just like ate a vampire.
Yeah,
He's
or like
oh, you were so hungry, but I got you first. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh. You had to eat a vampire.
But it's a cool little bit of character development, demonstrating who or what Jack is.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
It'll be
he
strong
just
to eat a vampire.
killed he vampired the vampire
He just
because he was And this is while he's really weak
Try.
and barely woke up from like a desperate nap that he wouldn't have taken if he didn't have to.
Yeah.
So like, well, okay, he's
Okay.
a little bit dangerous. He's kind of a power to be wary of. I do like how they introduced that much.
And he's like, I'm wanting revenge on the Lord of Bats.
Yeah. There's a part in his overall trekking that occurs soon that mentions like walking through black grasses that are grabbing him, which is, if you've read the Chronicles of Amber, something that you encounter on the Black Road. And like, oh, it's Zelazny somewhat recycled that idea. And my time tables are right. I want to say, well, I don't know when it written, but published. I think Chronicles of Amber was published after this. But I also have theory, like all of Zelazny's stories can exist in the universe of Chronicles of Amber, but the reverse is not true of those stories.
That was a little
So it's
confusing.
totally confusing. But it's sort of like he doesn't do it, but he could do it like Stephen King does Dark Tower series, where like that universe that's described in the Dark Tower, it actually can contain all the other stories that King has written or will write. Yeah.
So then he kind of is going.
You keep going.
Okay. He was kind of going through his life as he's walking, and he's wondering about he was talking about the Hellflame, like why I wanted to get the Hellflame, and it was like his bride price for Evin?
Evine, maybe? I don't know. That's what I'm going to call her.
In the
Evine.
audiobook, but I could be wrong.
Oh, that's right. You're reading
I was
this
reading
and you have the audiobook.
Yeah.
That's
so
good. You get
Evin?
both sides of it.
Yeah.
So my impromptu research shows that the first book of the Chronicles of Amber is copyrighted a year before this, but I think we get into the black grasses later on in the stories. So anyway,
yeah,
it's all about the same time. There's some like similar idea. It's not a big deal, but
it's about this heartthrob. Even he's like, oh, she's both like the light side and the dark side, so she's powerful, and yeah, time is nothing to her, so she said she would wait for me.
Yeah,
and I'm just. Yeah, it's
the
gonna be great.
only
And he's
like thing that
brightens
brightens
his
his mood. The only thing that brightens his mood is thinking about this chick, which he was stealing the Hellflame as the bride price, like for her father.
For the father.
To get this girl.
You give me that, and I'll give you her.
Yeah.
Didn't she feel great about that? Yeah. So then he pops upon this rock.
Oh, I think a little before that, there's like he's trying to find water.
Oh yeah.
And just like the way that it was written, and when he finds one that's guarded, and says he has to use all of his skill. But then in like a roundabout way, it says that he killed the guard, took all of his shit, and got some drinking water.
But at the drinking or near there is the rock.
Yeah, I think a bit after that.
The rock with lynching.
The mossy rock.
Mossy
creepy
rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has this like really interesting battle with the rock. You're like, I've never imagined battling with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an all-powerful rock.
And that whole scene also reminds me of stuff from Chronicles of Amber. Anything to do with the pattern, walking the pattern. I'm like, oh, it's very much like him trying to circle the rock. But it
Yeah.
was interesting, like
Just like a
the
slow
reveal.
battle.
So the rock's trying to suck him in so that
And he's like,
it
I'll
can
just
eat him.
keep
And so he kind
turning
of like
away from it.
shuffles
And he
and
goes
ends
in
up circling it
spiral.
and a lot, like, yeah, does a bunch of loops around it to
Yeah.
prolong. And then he has an idea of how to prevail in the situation. He's almost touching the rock,
He's a candle.
and he dives for stuff that's in the, like, after he made the first circle, he finds that there's a pile of bodies and their discarded goods, like, hiding behind the rock so that it doesn't, like, make people stay away from the rock.
Yeah.
And then he tries to snatch something out of there. I don't know if he got the candle from the guy he killed at the rain pool, or he got that out of the stuff, and then he also got some rags.
Just lit
But he
on
manages to make fire
Yeah.
with the flint that he found.
And then he's a Jack of Shadows. So.
And he comes into his power because
Then
he has
he-
some shadow to work with.
Flip script on the rock. The all-powerful rock. And he's just like, no, I'm going to suck your power from you. So
Yeah.
take that.
I think it was a good choice having him eat the vampire, essence or blood first before doing the rock, because the whole rock thing is a little more abstract. But it actually seems like the rock is a more powerful, dangerous entity than the weak vampire that he took out earlier.
Sophie knows
That's
we're
fine.
here.
Yeah. He's like, you're not
Like,
moving.
I
It's time to
mean,
get love. Yeah, it's a strangely creepy thing. Like psychic rock that's eating people and
Yeah. It's creepy. Yeah, and you can see all the bones laid around there. And people, that's where you get all the stuff. Ooh. So, chapter 3.
ta-da. Pretty.
So it came along.
He's doing much better after his snack.
Rock snack.
The rock snack.
Which is more like the power is what you expect from it. But he came along a girl named Rosie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
finds a broken mop.
Yeah.
It describes her, says that she looks like a broken mop.
Yeah.
She's a very
he's like,
old woman. He's just trying to avoid
woman
some of the
out here in this
structures.
dangerous land.
And some ladies are like,
Yeah.
yelling at him, "Oh, Jack." And he realizes that it's this young girl that he knew, formerly young girl.
Yeah.
And I guess this
And he
whole
met
sad
at a
story.
Bar?
Yeah, tavern
Tavern.
girl. He mentions tavern girls.
Yeah.
Earlier, he talks about mentions tavern girls when they're talking about watches and how they don't work on the dark side. They only work on the day side.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives them as amulets of like powerful contraceptive power. No booze for the dog. It's kind of funny. It's like,
Yeah.
also a little bit of a sanitized
oh.
way for these like raw dogging tavern girls. Just take this
Yeah.
amulet, you'll be fine.
Birth control. It's ridiculous.
They are on the magic side of the planet, so maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, she is like, I remember you promised me to go to your castle.
Shadow Guard.
And it sounded so amazing, but I got old waiting for you.
Yeah.
And here I am, I'm a little peeved that you didn't do
But
that.
he said, like, no, but I did go back and nobody.
And then he offered
You were
to
gone, I don't know where he
take
was.
her, which is so sweet. He's just like, good on my
Yeah.
offer, let's go.
Well, even before that,
And
she's
it's
like, oh, you
oops.
don't have to tell me you went back. But she's a
You
wise
went
woman, has some magic, and he tells her, like, no, use your power so you can tell whether or not I'm lying. And so she does. And when she's
Oh, yeah,
reluctant,
she
she's
has
like,
no
I'm not gonna do
power
that to
herself.
I'm not gonna do that to a dark side power. It's like, no, go for it. And then she realizes, like, he's telling the truth. He did actually go back. He just doesn't work in the same time scales because he's immortal. So he doesn't think that, oh yeah, this tavern girl's gonna grow old or have to
Oops.
leave before I can come back.
Or if I die and there's like 10 years or something.
Yeah, and he But he does. He offers to take her anyway, and she
Yeah.
decides like, no, I'm fine where I'm at. But
And it kind of has her story of how she found this baron, and this baron was like, you're in service to me, and you can. Yeah, that was interesting. She became in service with this baron because he's like, what are you doing here? How are you here? Just
yeah,
in the middle of.
well, she gets a different job, not working at the tavern, like becomes a protege for some other old wise woman, and that's kind of ends
Yeah,
up
they're like, oh, you
heading
can
that
take over.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she decides, oh, something bad, and she tells Jack that he needs to run. He needs to go because she let the Baron know that he was there, but she feels bad about it now because realized that he actually did try to go back, and he still wants her to go with him. She's like, no, I'm old and I'm fine where I'm at, but you need to get out of here.
I'm too old, but I was a little mad earlier, so I already called that Baron, so you better go. And I'll make a storm. So you can like get away from him as far as, but if you get caught, it'd probably be fine.
But it's
like, what?
It's a short part, and even a bit of a minor part of the story. But it's like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very like
sweet.
very touching little bit.
Yeah. So the Baron's coming after him.
What about her warning?
Yeah, that if
she
was
him,
gonna get caught,
he
would be
him,
okay.
Do not pursue the machine that thinks like a man, only faster.
Oh.
A little bit of Butlerian jihad vibes off of that, but
the wise woman Rosie.
Yeah, it's like, well, those are only on day side. Like, yeah, I know, like, but don't do it. But he's got to get out of there, so there's not a whole lot more doing that.
Yeah, so now he's running away from the bear, and there's a big storm, and she's like, oh, she felt bad, and so then of course the Baron makes it up to him.
He catches him during one of his, like,
and he has like a few
naps.
bodyguards.
A werewolf wolf-like thing that chases him down, takes it out.
Yeah, and he has a few other bodyguards.
There's like 7 total guys.
It's a lot of guys.
So they're arguing. The Baron's actually part of that search party. Like, they're with him. It's not just the Baron's henchmen out there.
Yeah, and he comes up to him and he's like, I wish to turn you into a slave. That's what I do with people that come. They have to be enslavitude to me.
They're resurrected kind of in his kingdom, and then he catches them if he can and enslaves them. And it's like, not a good dude. But he's also a power and a magician, sorcerer type person. So they're all there, and Jack's like,
my rock.
trying to be
my man.
Like, hey, he's ready to fight to the death, to not be a prisoner. And then the guys get distracted by something, but he doesn't look. He just takes the opportunity, takes somebody's head off. Not yet. I think they're just distracted by the bats coming through. So he really beheads a guy.
Yeah,
and then he
gets a couple guys.
Cuts another guy's, like, splits another guy's head.
And then it's like upon them.
And then there's a fencing series where he's actually fighting the remaining 5 guys. And then their swords catch fire. They get too hot to hang on to.
Oh, yeah. They're like,
flash of light, magical flash bang. FBI, open up.
Yep. And then disarm them. Is that in chapter? That's starting in chapter 4, right?
They get disarmed. It's the Lord of Bats.
Yeah.
And they start this argument between the Lord of Bats and the Baron. Apparently they're on the border of their respective kingdoms. And like, hey, he's my prisoner. No, he's my prisoner.
And then Jack of Shadows is like, okay.
Yep, Dark Four. He's like,
kind of sneak over here a little bit.
Slip out. He does make it a good distance, but then the Lord of Bats catches him.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, that's the bright, shiny light, the Lord of Bats, which you wouldn't think would. And it kind of describes, you can kind of see his face, but it's like really bright to look on too.
And it starts describing this effect that goes on where bats are like going in and out of his cloak and just kind of disappearing under his clothes, and it's all a weird thing.
Just all over. Yeah.
Yeah. What makes me wonder if they're actually like in there necessarily, or there's just like portals in his clothes, and because as someone is describing, it sounds like there's so many of them. It's just like.
So then he's like actually kind of nice and is like, oh, why don't you just need to rest and have some food. I know you've just been out here in the Pooh land, so come on over.
It's like the shtick
I'll take
that they
care of
stay
you.
with most of the time. Like the Lord of Bats is pretending like, oh, I've been all nice taking care of you, but really it's not a choice or invitation. He's not allowed to leave. It's just the way that he's like putting it on. And sometimes Jack like plays back and they talk about Jack in the third person at different points and act like they don't know what the other person's saying. It's more like verbal fencing from
like, well,
conversation.
I am actually hungry and tired, so sure.
Like if I can't get away, I might as well
Yeah.
get a little bit of lodging.
So then it's on to
Lord of Bats sets up some creepy transport spell with drawing stuff on the ground and blood, and then they shoot off. Jack gets pushed into something. He comes to and he's in sort of like a 360 chamber
windows,
of mirrors.
Just in there. Yeah. And you're like, wow. The Lord of Bats like sits down with them, like, oh, I can eat this food and you get regular meals and sleep. And he's like, it looks like a prison. Like, what are you talking about? This is a cell, right?
Yeah. But it's sort of a mirrored, weird, faceted room chamber that he's in, and so or just describes as he's like coming to and trying to figure it out. His own reflection is what's looking at him like all around. And I was thinking about the interrogation and torture of Miller in Altered Carbon, where the way that they tortured him was to just put him in with a copy of himself.
Yeah.
So this is maybe like a little bit lower level of that because it's not going to be interactive until after he starts going crazy.
Yeah.
But that would be a bit maddening on its own. Probably it's like just reflections of you and what's in that room and nothing on the outside. And you move and it feels like there's something else there. And it made me think of that from they did to Miller in Virtual.
That's true. And he's like, yeah, so you see the shape of the room and you see the shape of this gem. And he's like, wait a minute. And he's like, I did this spell. Like, you're inside of here. This is you in this gem. And he's like, what?
Yeah, so it's just kind of a neat idea. It doesn't have anything to do with the story so much. But the Lord of Bats, like the thing that Jack is stuck in is the jewel that's also around his neck. And the Lord of Bats can simultaneously be inside it and being like carrying it at the same
he's like,
time.
how is that possible? And so they kind of like talk about that for a while. And he's like, yeah, so the Lord of Bats can come and go as he pleases.
Yeah, and that's something else that shows up that can come and go.
What is it
the
called?
Abortion grabs them under the table as he's talking to the Lord of the Bats.
Creature form.
We're going to read the description because one of the things that's not like the description isn't trickled to you too much. Kind of get a concise download. It looked like something that had started out to be a man, but had never quite made it. It had been stepped on, twisted, had holes poked into the sickly dough of its head bulge. Bones showed through the transparent flesh of its torso, and its short legs were thick as trees, terminating in disc-shaped pads from which dozens of long toes hung like roots or worms. Its arms were longer than its entire body. It was a crushed slug, a thing that had been frozen and thawed before it was fully baked. It is the Bortian, said the Lord of Bats. And he goes on to say, like, oh, the Daysiders have been trying to create life, artificial life with science. I did it with magic. Like, well, halfway.
He like took
Check it
their
out.
creatures and magicked them, and then now they're creatures, and they can kind of just come and go as they please.
Or maybe just the one.
And he's like, I
somehow
need
it
a
can come and
knife
go.
or a sword or something, and he's like, I don't got one.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
And he was,
perhaps you
like,
could
grabbing on
loan
his
me a weapon. He's like, I'm sorry, but I don't have one.
And he's like, oh, I didn't know it was here. And he's like pulling on his foot and like dragging him down. And he's like, what?
Yeah. So the Lord of Bats claims that he doesn't know, like, it can come and go or that it's going to be there. But I think maybe he's just pretending. Like, that was part of the whole plan. It was like going to have him trapped in this jewel, and the thing's going to pop in and out and, you know, mess with his sanity.
So now he's like, well, you're just kind of a psychological experiment, and you're gonna be here just forever. You're gonna have meals, and I'm gonna watch you go insane, and we're gonna see if we can get that thievery gene, or what did he call it? Get the thievery out of you with just...
I don't know. He said that he wants to drive him mad.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive
And
you mad.
Jack had countered. This is where they're talking about Jack in the third person. The Lord Bat says that he wants to, you know, drive his enemy mad, and Jack says, just like, well, maybe, perhaps he's already mad, like kleptomania.
Yeah.
It's such and such.
He's like, I'm already mad.
Lord Bat
It's okay.
doesn't
He's
care. He
like,
doesn't really buy it. So.
He's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you go real crazy.
But he's got some food. He's been provided with a bath
Regularly.
Chapter 5, we discovered that the clothes that he has been given us the motley of a jester. Which is like another way that the Lord of Bats is fucking with him. But
yeah, so he's like, okay, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna just try to like chill in this place, and he's not gonna get to me. No.
Jack does some little bit of magic, and then the Lord of Bats shows up. He's like, whoa.
Can't do that.
That's not, you're not gonna do that.
Destroy
whatever
something.
it was you did. And then it's kind of, that's left alone for a while. But
so then Even comes to see him.
The light of his life, Evine.
Yeah. And she has that necklace on.
But he's like rejecting that she's real. Well.
Yeah. He's like, oh no. You're not even. That's not possible.
Yeah. She would wait for me. He's the
He's like, that's not real. And then the Lord of Bats. Yeah, so anyway, he's like, it's not real. And she's like, no, you just messed it up. You just lied to me, and then you were gone. And
yeah, she's talking shit about Shadowguard, and
like
Jack kind of takes that personally and pushes
like,
back a little bit.
There's really, and it's way better than this garbage you see here.
If I have, at some point, can do like little clips, I just want to certainly play like the classic of the wrestler. Like, God, it's real to me.
Yeah, you're like, oh, kind of. It's like it's completely covered in shadow. There's no, you can't just look and find it. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's parts where it's described that Jack is like walking around, like you walk not just on what sort of the floor of the gem, but the walls and the ceiling too. And I sort of have a picture of David Bowie in the Labyrinth and the MC Escher scene. And there's like,
yeah, totally
walking and stuff. It could totally be like that.
I go insane, that's for sure. Yeah. So then he keeps like he's like, I'm gonna act normal. It's fine. I got this. And then it worked kind of. Like Lord Bats comes to him and is like, you're boring me basically. So and then that's the confusing part that I missed. I feel like he's like, let me do this spell or something.
All right,
And
so Jack, he's like trying to act like the whole thing's not getting to him to maybe get the Lord of Bats to show up, and then a bath shows up, and so he anticipates like, okay, I'm getting cleaned up. The guy's showing up again, so he's ready for it. He's a little encouraged, and then while Lord of Bats is visiting, he starts putting in the idea that maybe Jack is one of the seven powers that's supposed to be maintaining the shield on the dark side. He's like, well, you should go check on it. You know, if you got out more, you'd see that it was bleeding.
no.
Like, and then, you check the Book of Elves, which was that artifact where whatever sort of, what do they call it?
Powers or something?
Yeah, but no, the thing that actually would have written it, it's some divine entity, some god or something, would write in the book and say, okay, these powers are the ones that are supposed to be taking care of it right now. So do that, and we won't all die. So he gets the Lord of Bats to go away and check that, and he like kind of gives the story to him. And the Lord of Bats discovers that Jack is listed as one of the powers that's supposed to be maintaining the shield, but he can't because he's stuck in the gem. Describes it as being strangely entered. So it looks like the record was modified, but it's in the book, and that's the only truth that they all agree on that side of the planet.
Like, all right. So then he's like, oh, I need to do some sort of like spell or something. He makes like a fire.
They let him out of the gem, I think, and they get him to a little place where he can do some whatever kind of magical stuff he's supposed to do to help maintain the shield and fix the leaky crack or whatever's in it. And so they have little fires burning around, burners and places.
You're like, ooh, shadows.
Yeah, there's gonna be shadows. So there's still some back and forth, and the Lord of Bats is not like comfortable with Jack being free, and then there's shadows going on, but he also doesn't want the world to end. But Jack was like, hey, if I was gonna go crazy, what do I care if you all die anyway? But the Lord of Bats has Aveen there. Like she's supposed to have some kind of powers to help keep him in check.
Together or something.
Yeah, they're gonna do it.
And he's like, guess what? You're gonna be my girl after this. After I do whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
He mentioned
I would never.
Something about the simulacra. Don't weep. That's how you know that it was actually her.
I knew it was
like,
her.
oh, and the Lord of Bats is like, oh, when did that happen?
Tell me.
Yeah, there was something like her first appearance, and she's in the gem. I guess it was last chapter or so, and it does say that he saw something he wasn't supposed to see as she was leaving, because he's like laid on his bed. It's like, oh, whatever, you're not real. You can stay here if you want, or you can go. And then it didn't say what he saw, but it said like that he saw something he wasn't supposed to see.
Yeah.
I think it was that she was crying.
She was crying,
she left.
yeah. Like, oh, I guess she's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But amongst all of that, this whole thing was Jack's plan to escape and get out.
Yeah.
He like summons some kind of creature or spirit or something to give him problems instead of fixing what's wrong with the shield. Ezra also tells him like how that he changed the record, and it's like, actually it was you that I crossed off.
Yeah, and I put your name in there.
You were doing a bad job. Jack put his own name in it, The one that he crossed
Oh, I
off
thought
was
he
the
put
Lord
the
of
Lord
Bats.
Oh, I thought you put the Lord Bats in
No,
there.
the Lord of Bats already was in
okay.
there. The Lord of Bats was already kind of like
Oh.
not doing his duty
Mm.
and like didn't know that he was in the book. So he was, slacking anyway. But
Yeah.
shadows, some sort of monster, teleports out. He's free.
Free.
So don't you
And he's back to walking again.
back to it? Lots of walking.
Lots of walking.
And
When he
chapter
comes
6, the last
upon-
one for
I
the
like this
night.
character a lot. He
Yeah.
comes upon the morning star.
Morning Star.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
Morning Star's
"Oh,
mentioned
he's just
earlier, but it didn't
staring
really
at him."
know as much like what
Yeah.
it was or if it was.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like his only friend. He brings him some wine.
Yeah.
And
he's
Morning
like-
Star seems like, I don't know, kind of a gargoyle type thing.
Yeah, he's just staring. at
Large,
the-
with wings, but he's sort of melded into the mountain too, and he just stares off in the
Mhm.
direction that the sun will come up, but it never comes up.
Yeah, because he's in Twilight, right?
In Twilight. So Twilight, by this time we figured out Twilight is the area, kind of the border between day and night
Night.
sides of the planet, which
Yeah.
makes sense. That it isn't like a perfect.
And then they're
division.
debating, aren't they debating whether like that Twilight was made artificially or not? They're like, oh, there's a light that comes from there, and I thought it was made from the, or maybe it's an actual star.
Oh, you're talking about the satellite?
Oh, maybe
Yeah, they
it's a
talk
satellite.
about the satellite that they can see on Twilight because they're starting to have some science is working, some magic is working. Neither are as strong as they could be in that area.
Yeah.
And yeah, that comes up after there's a whole bunch of kind of philosophical discussion, and they talk about the theory of on the dark side, the magic side of the planet. They talk about the core of the planet is like all clockwork and
Mhm.
gears and stuff.
Mhm.
And the day side, they claim, well, in the sort of like dark side parlance, they say that the core of the earth is this melted demon lava
Mhm.
thing. But the other side, it would just be that, oh, it's very hot and it's molten
Yeah.
rock.
In the Morning Star just seems to be like an I see all kind of, and he asks him his like future.
Yeah, it's like an oracle.
Are you like, is this gonna happen? Is what I want going to happen? And then he's like, well, yes, and it may not be exactly what you want when you
Yeah,
get it.
at the
It's kind of interesting.
says you will succeed in that which you are about, but by then it may not be what you desire.
Yeah, so he's having this like conversation with his friend, and then all of a sudden, whoa, bam, it's a dragon. Hey guys, I'm really tired from trying to flap my wings all the way across this mountain.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like
It's like, what?
an unimpressive dragon.
Like,
Like totally tired, like oh gosh.
old dragon.
And fly all the way over there to steal a sheep.
Yeah, and then he tries to eat Jack. He's like, well, you're right here. But then Jack just like goes into the shadow and blows the flame back at him. It's like,
Yeah, it like inhales
like,
the flame
whoa.
that comes out, and then it blows it back, and the dragon's all like,
whoa.
"Wait, I recognize you.
Yeah.
You stole my shit.
Yeah.
Where is it?"
Where's my stuff?
You're like, well, your hoard's part of my hoard now.
Yeah.
Maybe you better leave before I eat you.
Yeah. And
And-
so he does, right?
Yeah, the dragon does
It's like,
leave after he
dang.
mouths off a little bit and says Jack basically isn't a very nice person.
And then they
Um,
kind of tell his story about how the dragon became a dragon.
I think it was a
Which is
human who just
fascinating.
got
He's
very
a human and he's super
greedy,
full of greed.
turns into a dragon.
Turns into a dragon.
Yeah.
That was
The
fascinating.
like by the time we get both the demonstration of the like nullifying the dragon's fire and throwing it back out would kind of speak to Jack's capability of maybe taking out a dragon, but also we had the previous stories like, okay, he ate a vampire, he ate the creepy moss covered rock that was going to eat him, and then a dragon comes along, all he needs is a little bit of shadow.
He
and he's like,
outwitted the Lord of Bats.
I'm
and
ready
then-
I'm ready to rock, dragon. Do you want to get eaten or do you want
Yeah.
to leave?
Yeah.
So kind of badass. A little bit. I think we skipped over to so the Oracle. Morningstar is an oracle.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't see everything, and some of the things that he can't see. So there are shadows across your life. Speaking to Jack, there are shadows across your life which I cannot pierce. And it also explains that like things that directly affect Morningstar, maybe he can't see those parts of the future. You can just see like everybody else's future.
Yeah.
Think of God Emperor of Dune had a similar problem. If we've read that far into Herbert. So I don't know. Are these ideas always coming up, or there's definitely trends in different decades. Speculate why like people are writing similar things or reading similar things.
The ultimate
Is it
realities. Like, is this reality or is that a not reality?
I'm just always seeing things cross over. And there's discussion between Jack and Morningstar about like how the day side got science and the dark side got magic. So like falling star, some magical thing that gave them the knowledge. And Morningstar is like, well, maybe you just thought it on your own, and that was a story.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was thinking.
They call the event
falling.
or the thing that both fallen star and falling one. And I was even wondering, it's like, is Morningstar the thing that they're talking about? Just a thought to consider. It's like we don't even have any sort of explanation of like why is this creature frozen in twilight, forever looking out, waiting for the sun to come up.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
The dragon part definitely was fun. And then there's the discussion about the satellite, because of course the dark side people and the day side people look at the stars differently, and Jack and the dark side, I think of like the stars are actually entities, or they're things that divine rulers have power over. It's like, but the one that doesn't twinkle, that damn one that doesn't twinkle.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
It's white.
Where they're like, is that
the ruler of it never answers me?
Yeah.
And the whole like the existence of this what pisses him off.
Then, or what
and Morningstar's like, oh, that's just an artificial thing that the dayside people put up there to watch the border. It's like, all right, I'm gonna take it out. Just to show that magic is better than science.
Yeah.
And he's got heads off. He leaves Morningstar, and he's trekking. He goes through an interesting like town, like a ghost town. Mentions an avenue of singing statues. It's sort of fun and interesting, and talks about or thinking about his of revenge and who he's going to take out. And then it's like cities need to be more organized when I'm ruling. It's like, wait, ruling? Yeah, maybe. He just realized
I
kind
could be
like
a
that
conqueror.
was his idea as he went. He's like, well, if I'm going to, beat these guys, I might as well be the conqueror, the ruler of this whole side. So,
So then he's like, the first bird song he had heard in ages reached his ears, and he sought out to be a singer on its bow, and then he saw the bridge and all that stuff. Yeah. And he was like, it's a good omen to be met with song. And then he just went on.
I think it was like trying to get away from the noise by the time
where he continued.
He actually got out of there.
Yeah, and he continued on to day.
Yep, he's heading towards day. recalling how the story's structured, I'd say there's even easily like 3 acts, which is pretty normal for storytelling. Really wanted to break this up into 2 episodes though for the podcast because it's not that long of a book. It's very readable, in a short period of time.
Mhm.
So just doing halves, first half, second half, should be enough. So next time we're going to be reading chapter 7 on through the end. We're also talking about what the next book is going to be on the reading list. We want to try to give everybody a little more warning on this one.
Yeah.
So you can get your copies in line. And possibly the second book of Altered Carbons, things that we're thinking of. Something from Christopher Moore or more from Roger Zelazny. We had one informal vote for more Roger Zelazny. It would probably be a standalone again.
Or Chronicles of Amber, or that was
I think it's too long. I don't know if we want to do that yet.
Okay.
I really do want to do it. I definitely want to get to that
Mm.
some point well before the series comes out, if it ever does come out. I almost hope that it doesn't because they're just gonna ruin it. But so if you have any suggestions on what we might go through next, sci-fi fantasy, probably only stuff that I've already read at this point. We're gonna throw them in the chat or down in the comments. If you have any contributions that you weren't able to put into the live chat, please stick them down in the comment section below.
Thanks for joining us.
And we will do the second half of Jack of Shadows a week from today.
Woo.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
Good night.